Hello, everyone, and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. So, I'm back for another Have Your Say video, and this is for RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars 10, Episode 5.
Oh, just get on with it, please.
So, today we're going to be recapping the episode, going through the results of the Have Your Say poll, where you get to vote on whether you agree with the outcome of this week's episode, and some light drama to do with some recent backlash against season 16 winner Nymphia Wind. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Okay, so let's start by recapping the episode. So I think the thing that most people took away from this episode, at least at the beginning, was obviously the whole NVQ point giveaway thing, and then obviously a little bit of shadiness that happened. So obviously for those of you who watched it, you'll know Mistress and Georges kind of conspired between themselves, and they managed to get Nicole and Kerry to give them their points with the intention of giving it back, but then Mistress and Georges just gave it to each other. So Mistress and Georges ended up with 2 points each, whereas Nicole and Kerry ended up with 0. Now, this was huge all over social media, especially when the 10-minute preview came out before the episode. Everyone was going crazy in the comments and everything. Now, obviously, this is very shady and very calculated, but I've seen sort of different sides of people's opinions on it. Personally, I come down to the point of view that Drag Race is a TV show first and a competition second. So was it a little bit shady and unfair? Yes. But are they playing the game and was it entertaining? Also, yes. So personally, I did quite enjoy there was a little bit of drama, but obviously everyone's going to make their own decision on whether they think it's cool or not. But ultimately, it is just a TV show. But I will say I was highly entertained. So we find out that the main challenge for this week is a Rappin Roast. So it's like a normal comedy roast, but they're going to do it in the style of a rap. I personally really like when Drag Race does these random things that they've never done before. And I think it does make sense that they're trying to switch things up. They're doing the same thing, obviously, the whole of this season with All Stars 10 is a completely different format. So I think this kind of goes along with that new style. And, you know, we all love a new style every now and then.
And you have no style.
And because Lydia won last week, she got to decide the order. And I really was thinking, are we going to get more like drama about people not liking where they were in the lineup? But luckily that didn't really happen because I feel like Lydia actually was quite fair with it. But as I've said multiple times, I personally don't think the lineup really matters. So I'm glad that we didn't get any of that kind of like fake nonsense in this episode because it is quite annoying.
So are you.
Okay, so let's now go through each queen's Rappin Roast performance, and I'll go through them in order in which they performed. So first up, we had Tina Burner. I personally really enjoyed Tina. She's the one I feel like I actually really thought she was going to be in the top this week. So personally, I would give it a yay because I did think she was quite understandable, and I don't really agree with the whole thing of her writing too many lyrics. It was a bit faster than some of the others, but I thought what she did say made sense. So yeah, I would definitely give Tina a yay. I thought she was actually going to maybe potentially win this week. Looking at the Have Your Say poll, though, you were very much more split. So Ye did come out on top with 44.7, but then Just Okay got almost just as much with 42.6, and then 12.7 for Nay. After that, we had Nicole Page Brooks from Atlanta, Georgia. I love Nicole so much. She just has this so kind of I'm not bothered about any of this. I'm just living my best life attitude, which was really funny. I thought her roast was pretty decent. I do think maybe there needed to be a couple more zingers in there. She had a few funny moments, but I don't think it was maybe quite as laugh out loud as some of the other queens. So I would give it a yay, but maybe slightly more on the just okay side, because I do think there were some funnier people in this roast. Looking at the Have Your Say poll, you gave this 52.5% for yay, so you obviously mainly liked this, and then 33.7% for just okay. So yeah, that probably is the proportion I would give it, and then 13.8 for nay. Then we had Lydia B. Collins. Now, this was really interesting to me because obviously we all know Lydia was cast obviously way later than everyone else, and it was clearly obvious none of the queens had prepared that greater reads for Lydia because they didn't really know who she was. But we know that Lydia is a good roaster because she won the roast challenge on her original season, which was like 2 seconds ago. I really enjoyed Lydia's roast. I thought it was very clever. She had some really good reads in there. She definitely I think performed it well. Her enunciation was very good. So yeah, overall, I would definitely give Lydia a yay. And it seems like you agreed because you gave 73.9% for yay, so almost three quarters, 24% for just okay, and then only 2.1 for nay. Then moving on to the MIB herself, Mistress Isabel Brooks. I did really enjoy Mistresses, and she was doing her kind of like tee hee hee, you know, all of that kind of stuff. I think she did the performance very well. In terms of the verse, she did have some funny moments in there, and it was very good. I didn't think it was maybe as good as some of the judges did. I thought maybe she was more mid level to me. I would give it a yay, I suppose, but again, more on the just okay side. It wasn't bad enough for a just okay, but I didn't quite think it was as much of a yay as some of the other people, but that's just my personal preference. But you mainly gave it yay with 62.8%. Then just okay got 30.6, so still a decent chunk, almost a third, and then 6.5 for nay. Then penultimately, it's a big word, we had Georges. I really enjoyed Georges's. Now, we'll get onto this a little bit later, but if you've seen my Roscoe's for this week, and if you haven't, then what are you doing here? Go and watch that. No, I'm kidding. You need to stay and watch this first, then go and watch the Roscoe's.
That won't be happening.
But if you've watched Roscoe's, you'll know, and if you're on Twitter, you probably have seen this. Megami from season 16 actually wrote the verse for Georges, or at least helped her write it, and Megami tweeted about it. So I know some people are saying, well, you know, Georges didn't write it, but this is actually really common on Drag Race. We just don't always know about it. Lots of queens get verses and things written for them or roast jokes. So that part of it, I don't really mind that much. But to me, what was really funny was not only were the lyrics really funny and she did really good reads for everyone. I mean, for example, calling Mistress Godzilla in a 1-inch heel, like that is so funny, and the way it rhymed and everything was just great. But also I think Georges really captured the performance, and she was doing all of the dancing, so it made it different to everyone else. So I think she stuck out because of that, in my opinion. So I would definitely give Georges a yay. And it seems like you agreed because almost 80%, 79.4 to be exact, said yay. 17.4 for just okay, and then only 3.3 for nay. And then finally, we had Kerry Colby. Now, with Kerry's, I know she was going a different route by not naming queens, but just kind of saying reads, and we all know who she's talking about. Personally, I don't really think that worked because the reads weren't specific enough, I don't think. And even though she was standing next to the queens and sometimes sort of pointing at them, I still didn't really get it that much. I will say, I thought her rap itself was really good. It was maybe one of the best in terms of the lyricness of it, or the rhythm maybe is a better word. She sounded like an actual rapstress, but to me it wasn't specific enough and I didn't really laugh. So unfortunately, I think I would have to give it a nay because I just don't think it met the brief of it being a Rappin Roast. It was just a roast. And it seems like you agreed because you voted 42.4% for nay, 39.9% for just okay, and then only 17.7% for yay. So then I asked you, whose Rappin Roast performance gets a slay, as in the best performance? And you voted 32.3% for Georges, 75.2% for Mistress, with Lydia coming in third with 20.1%. I think I would have to agree. I did really enjoy Georges's, regardless of whether she wrote it or not. I think she performed it really well. I think the actual lyrics themselves were probably the funniest, and some of the reads were really, really good. Okay, so let's move on to the runway for this week, and the category was Little Shop of Whores, which is obviously a play on Little Shop of Horrors. Okay, so starting off with Tina Burner. I really enjoyed Tina's. I'm glad that she did something quite different to some of the other things that she's done. I really enjoyed the fact that she's playing with different colors and different styles. Personally, I did really enjoy this. I know some people said that it was quite a similar silhouette to her entrance look, but I mean, so many queens have silhouettes that work for them and they do at the same time, so I think personally that's fine. Overall, I really enjoyed it, and the reveal of the petals falling down for me was really interesting, so I would definitely give this a yay. And it seems that you agree because you gave 64.1% for yay, 31.7% for just okay, and then 4.2% for nay. After that, we had Georges. Now, controversially,
oh, here we go.
Although I think this is a very nice look, I personally maybe thought it was a little bit more subdued and simple compared to some of the others. I'm sure if you look at some of the details and everything, it did look very well made. So although it was good, Personally, I didn't think it was maybe as extravagant as some of the others, so I think I would have to give this a just okay. But it seems that I'm wrong, which is likely.
You always are.
Because you gave 71.2% for yay, 25.1% for just okay, so it's still a quarter, I suppose, and then only 3.7 for nay. Next up, we had Nicole Page Brooks. Now, this one was tricky, I think. The judges kind of said, I enjoyed the first bit, which was the cactus. I don't think the reveal worked at all. It just looked quite clumsy the way it happened. I don't think it looked like it wasn't made to be a reveal. Like it was so tight and she found it difficult to get it off. I didn't really understand what the reveal was underneath. She said it was kind of the meat of the cactus. I don't know. Personally, I just thought it was slightly odd. I think I could see that she was trying to do something a bit different and trying to do a reveal, but ultimately, I think if she had just stuck with the first one, I would give it a yay. But because of the reveal, I'd have to give it probably more a just okay, even maybe going down to a nay if we're just talking the reveal. And in terms of the Have Your Say poll, you voted 46.9% for just okay, 32.2% for yay, and then nay got 22%. After that, we had Lydia B. Collins. I really enjoyed this outfit, and I liked that it was obviously a nod to Little Shop of Horrors and the way she was doing it with sort of the almost puppet plant on her arm. And the colours and everything looked amazing. And I'm pretty sure she probably made this because Lydia had hardly any time to prepare for the season. So in general, I actually really enjoyed this, so I would give it a yay. And it seems like you agreed, although it was a bit more split than I thought. So it was 55.8% for yay, 37% for just okay, which is quite a decent chunk, and then 7.3 for nay. Next up, we had Mistress Isabel Brooks. I was very surprised to see Mistress in this sort of outfit, and she did say this is something that she doesn't normally do. At Roscoe's this week, they did compare it to Bowser from Mario, and a lot of people online were comparing this to Ginger Minge's Glamour Toad from All Stars 6. And I think actually Ginger did tweet about this as a joke, and she posted a picture of it, sort of joking about this outfit. So in general, I'm not sure about this. I think it looked very well made, and I think it was cool that she was doing something different. But overall, I'm not sure if it's a look that I would necessarily say is my favorite. And at Roscoe's, Mistress did say she did not like this outfit and this wasn't her first choice. I probably would give it a just okay because I don't think it's bad enough for a nay, but it's not good enough for a yay either. Interestingly, this one was really split. It was almost a third each, but yay came out on top technically with 35.4%. Then it was just okay with 34.9, so almost 35. And then nay got 29.6, which is still a decent chunk. So it seemed like you were all very split this week. And then finally we had Kerry Colby. I thought this was a very interesting concept because it's a little bit like what Bosco did with the coffin or the casket, in that the back of her outfit was more of almost like a prop piece, and then she walked out of it. So obviously some people don't think that that should be allowed because it's not clothing or whatever. I think this one was more clothing like than Bosco's casket. It is a very well made outfit, and I think when she opened it up, obviously the flower and everything was beautiful. It hit the theme and everything like that. I think when she walked away from it, I'm not sure it was quite as impactful. I think it did need the bit at the back. So I would definitely give it a yay because she looked good, but I don't think it was quite as strong a yay as I would have given some of the others. I will say though, her body looked banging, and if I had a body like that, I would constantly dress like that, even just going down to the supermarket. Hello, this is Dr. Claudia Pousset in the editing room. Matt asked me to come on and edit this video for a moment because he was a very, very stupid person and he forgot to say the Have Your Say poll results for Kerry's look. So just to go through the statistics, it was 85.9% for the yay, 12.2% for the just okay, and then 1.9% for the nay. And now we will go back. Okay, so moving on to the slay for the runway, as in the outfit that was the best. And you voted Kerry Colby with 51.2%, 18.4% for Georges, and then 12.5% for Tina. I was kind of surprised because I did really like the concept of Kerry's, and like I said, her body looked amazing. I liked the back piece. I did think that once she left and sort of started walking and the back piece was no longer there, If that had just been on its own, I'm not sure it would have been a winning runway. That's just my opinion, and I'm probably wrong. Despite my 13 PhDs in fashion, I probably would have given my slay maybe to Tina because it was just unexpected that I didn't think she would wear something like that. And it's not a color or a style that we've seen her in before. I also did really like Lydia's as well, so they would probably have been my slays. But judging by the results, you put Kerry first and then Georges, and I didn't rate their outfits as much. So again, maybe I'm just having a bit of an off week. It wouldn't be the first time.
Delusion. Convince yourself.
Okay, so we find out that the top 2 this week are Mistress Isabel Brooks and Georges. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, did you agree with the top 2? And you voted 63% for no and 37% for yes. So of that majority that did say no, I said, who do you think should have been in the top instead? And you voted Lydia with 46.5%, Nicole with 28.5%, Tina was third with 15.4%, and Kerry with 9.6%. So Mistress and Georges then lip-synced the song Hot to Go by Chapel Roan, who was the guest judge this week. And we find out that it's a tie, so both of them get half a point to share that 1 point that you normally get, and they also split the winnings. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, who do you think won the lip sync? And you voted 81.2% for Georges and 18.8% for Mistress. So question 7, I then asked, who would you give your 1 NVQ point or most valuable queen point to? You voted Lydia B. Collins with 27%, Nicole Page Brooks 37%, and then Kerry Colby was third with 18.7%. Now, moving on to questions 8 and 9, which are related, and brace yourself because these are going to be bar charts, not pie charts. And no one cares. So question 8 was, who do you think will be the top 3 at the end of this bracket? And you had to select 3 of them. And it was a pretty unanimous strong result for Mistress, Lydia and Georges getting 95.5%, 91.5% and 94.5% respectively. But then I asked, who do you want to be in the top 3 at the end of this bracket? Now, this was interesting because the results were quite different to the first vote. So Lydia came out on top with 83.6%. Then it was Mistress with 59.5%. And then it was Nicole Page Brooks with 49.6%. And Tina was not that far behind with 42.1%. And then Georges got 36.9% and Kerry got 28.3%. So if you look at them side by side, I think it's quite obvious that you think that Lydia, Mistress and Georges will be the top 3. But it sounds like you want the top 3 to be Lydia, Mistress, and Nicole. Okay, so let's move on to the comments for this week. And there were so many comments. So I'm not going to be able to go through all of them. I'm going to try and group some of them together and just sort of put them up on screen, because if I went through all of them, this video would be so long. And I don't think anyone wants that. So starting out with my Patreon comments, my Patreon Sabato basically didn't agree with the winners, didn't really like Mistress's outfit. This was quite a common theme. There were quite a few people who said that they weren't vibing with Mistress this particular bracket, or this episode at least. So I think that was quite a common one. But then I think other people said that they do like Mistress and like that she's bringing in the drama, and accept that you need someone to be like that to make good TV, and you can't have a villain and then not accept that there's a villain. My Patreon Elizabeth mentioned the whole, I couldn't understand the words you were saying in the roast critique that came from Michelle in particular, saying I don't agree. I think it is, again, something, it's quite an easy thing to kind of say, oh, I couldn't understand you, because then it justifies not putting you in the top. I did personally understand Tina, for example. I will say people like Mistress were easier to understand because they had less lyrics, so they were able to punch them more. But I do think this was maybe just a bit of a cop-out, or maybe just the sound is really bad on Drag Race, and maybe she genuinely couldn't hear what they were saying. So maybe that's also part of it. My Patreon Ada seemed to agree with me and said Tina Burner absolutely should have been in the top, and the second spot would have been Lydia. And my Patreon Celia said the same thing about Tina and Lydia did a great job. My Patreon Kerry said that Nicole should have been in the top. But then my Patreon Riot said that Nicole was kind of stoic during the performance. I guess out of everyone, she was probably the one who just looked a bit more her usual unbothered self. But I think that's just what Nicole is like. My Patreon Debs talked about the whole Georges didn't write her lyrics because Megami wrote them. Now, I will say, Yes, you could argue that the Queen is just performing someone else's lyrics or whatever, but I think Georgia still had to perform it and do a good job. And we don't necessarily know who gets stuff written for them. It's only because we know because Megami mentioned it. If she hadn't said anything, no one would have thought about it. And I think this happens a lot more than you realize. It's the same thing with designers designing outfits. We know that a lot of the queens don't make their outfits, so you could argue the same thing that they're just wearing someone else's creation. So I do think, I'm not sure I 100% agree with that, but I can see why it might be a critique to not put someone in the top. But let me know what you think in the comments. Moving on to the comments from the Have Your Say poll itself, a lot of people said that they thought the judging was inconsistent or flawed this week, which I do agree with. I think there were some slightly strange critiques that maybe were convenient for who they wanted to push into the top 2 spot. And someone else mentioned something that I had thought of, and they said they really didn't want to give either Mistress or Georges the advantage, so they made them split the points so they were on equal ground. That I do definitely think was true, because if one of them had got a point, especially because of the whole shenanigans at the beginning, that would have meant that Georges and Mistress would have more points than people who actually did win in the previous week. So I can see why they did that, to try and level the playing field a little bit. There were some actual positive comments about this episode, though. People said, I really loved this challenge and the vibe was great thanks to the live audience. I definitely agree. I really appreciate live audiences. I think that's a big thing that Drag Race should go back to, because they used to do it all the time and now they don't do it as much, and I think it does really add something. And finally, we're going to move on to a little bit of recent light drama to do with some recent backlash against Nymphia Wind. So back in May 2025, season 16 winner Nymphia Wind appeared on the Very Delta podcast, which is hosted by season 3 contestant Delta Work, and I'll link to the full interview in the description. After this interview came out, many people commented saying that Nymphia was unprofessional and seemed a bit rude in the interview. If we look at the top comments on the interview video, most of them are quite negative. In the interview, Nymphia said she was sick and she was lying down with a blanket on her for a lot of the interview, and people said she seemed like she did not want to be there and was also saying weird or slightly rude things. The Very Delta podcast posted a clip from the interview, as they always do for promotion on social media, and in this particular clip, Nymphia was seemingly joking about Delta's age, but people in the comments claimed that Nymphia was being disrespectful.
Do you still have sex?
Yes, don't you? How old did you think I was?
How old are you? Let me guess. 70.
Close.
For real?
72. Sometimes you can't tell by the face, but you can tell by my hands. See the wrinkles?
I am being bamboozled. Delta Work. You're 49. You're 49.
People then started to bring up some previous criticism that Nymphia got, which you may remember that I talked about in one of my previous videos. That was that back in August 2024, shortly after Nymphia was crowned on season 16, someone posted a video clip from a meet and greet event in Spain, where Nymphia appeared to be looking down at her phone during the meet and greet. This clip went viral and Nymphia got a lot of criticism for this, with people saying that she was disrespecting her fans who had paid for the meet and greet. Nymphia at first reposted the clip and joked that she was on Grindr. However, Nymphia later released a statement saying that what you saw was only a short clip and not the whole thing. She also said that she was not rude to people and she was actually checking work emails. The person who posted the original clip of Nymphia on her phone even tweeted saying that Nymphia had messaged to apologize and that people were making way too much of this clip, which was not their intention. But going back to the Very Delta podcast criticism, a clip of Nymphia on the podcast went viral on social media, and some people started saying that Nymphia has a history of being disrespectful. However, some people did defend Nymphia. For example, a Twitter user posted a clip of the interview and said, "I'm sorry, but I think this interview was so funny. Y'all just mad for nothing. Delta was clearly laughing too. How much corporate boring interviews do y'all want? God forbid we have some chaos." However, I saw on Reddit that someone posted a screenshot of a reply to this viral tweet, which came from Meatball, who is a drag performer who also has a podcast on the Mom Network, which is the same network as Delta's podcast. Meatball replied to this tweet, which said that Delta was also laughing, and Meatball said she wasn't laughing. Some people took this to be confirmation that the awkwardness in the interview was not a joke and it was real. However, it looks like Meatball's reply was quickly deleted, and I didn't see it personally, but as I said, I found this screenshot of it on Reddit. There was also another Reddit post which I found, which showed a screenshot from a different post that Meatball replied to as well. In the post, someone asked if Nymphia was on something during the interview, and Meatball replied saying she was definitely on something the night before. However, this may have just been a joke, and I'm not sure what the context of this post was. A few other drag queens also weighed in on this situation with Nymphia as well. For example, Nymphia's season 16 sister Plain Jane commented on the viral tweet about Nymphia, saying, "This was a key. Uglies stay mad." Fellow season 16 contestant Saphira Crystal also commented on this, seemingly making a joke about it, saying, "I would have sat up and been awake for the whole interview, just saying." I also saw on Reddit that someone posted saying that they were at the Very Delta live show in Orlando, which took place before this interview with Nymphia came out. Apparently, someone asked Delta who the worst guest she's ever had was. Delta didn't say the name, but apparently she said that it was a queen who was, quote, recent and popular and also extremely rude and obnoxious. So once the Nymphia interview came out and all of this criticism started, people then assumed that Delta must have been referring to Nymphia. However, I will just say that this is just what someone said on Reddit, so I can't personally confirm if this is true or not, so this may just be speculation. But in general, Nymphia received a lot of criticism on the back of this interview, with people calling her disrespectful. However, a lot of people also defended Nymphia, saying that this is just her personality and that people were making too much out of this. I also don't believe that Delta responded to the situation as far as I'm aware, although I might be wrong. So for the time being, it looks like there are no other developments and we'll have to wait and see if any further information comes out about this in the future. But as I always say, please do not send any hate to Nymphia or any other queens. These videos are just intended to keep you up to date with what's happening in the world of Drag Race, and so it's really not that serious, so please just remember to not send hate and just consume this type of content passively. So there you go, there was the Have Your Say for RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars 10 Episode 5. Let me know if you enjoyed the Rappin Roast, or would you have preferred it to just be a normal roast, and why? If you'd like to get early access to my videos as well as having your comments featured in my Have Your Say poll, please consider checking out my Patreon. It just costs a few dollars a month and it is such an amazing way to support my channel, and I really appreciate everyone who signs up. So please check it out and I'll put a link to that in the description. I'd also like to say thank you so much to all of my amazing Patreons. You are so incredible. I am so humbled and so truly appreciative every time I see your names on the end of my videos and how many of you there are. Thank you so much for your support. I truly appreciate it. Please make sure you give a like and a comment on this video because it really does help boost this video in the algorithm and show it to more people. And please make sure you smash that subscribe button. I'd love to get to 150k by the end of the year, and I can only do that if you take your finger and click on that subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me again in the future for more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. Thank you so much. Bye!